All right, Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah, Kodash. Double honors to my apostles, bishops of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to the Lord's hopeful elect scattered abroad. All right, I'm the brother Taz of War, and just got a quick video I was watching yesterday. Meant to load it up yesterday, but it neither here nor there. You know, I was watching this redacted, and they was going in on how a crash is coming, and they got the experts speaking, and they actually have an exposed video on some of these guys speaking plainly on what the truth is. You know, so this is a good watch, a good listen. You know, I advise you to listen up. But I want to bring the scripture out, and I'm going to let the video play. This is 2 Esdras 9:1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest parts of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonder and powerful works, and ending in effects and signs. For every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders. For I have sanctified them for me from the beginning.
Yeah, was that many?
So it's not without precedent. 11 countries have just said, we're broke, you're not, we're going to borrow from you.
It's crazy that they literally can just take your money, and this is the new normal now. So in Cyprus, all of these people who were ripped off by the banks went to court to try to get their money back. And here's what happened. The European court just threw it out. Sorry. Dismissing the compensation claim. Sorry, it's legal. They were allowed to take this money. Sorry, under these laws, the banks can just take this money. It doesn't matter. Over the past 24 hours, there have been many reports of banks across Africa taking people's money. When they go to get answers, they're being shut down. No access to ATMs. This is Access Bank customers trying to use ATMs, but they can't, which they watch as rich customers inside the bank are walking out with bags of money, but they are not allowed to access the ATMs outside. See the metal bars? I'll show you this. Watch. This is Nigeria.
This is Access Bank at Ifako. While a lot of customers are standing outside to have access to the ATM, the security guards locked the compound, the access to the ATM, took some people inside, collected their ATM cards, and have been giving them money in bulk. Here they are. Look at the people. Those are people they allow in. Those are the people they allow. They allow these people in to give them bulk. They give them access to bulk cash. While their customers are out there, restricted from having access to the ATM. This is GT Bank at Ifako, opposite Zenith Bank. Access Bank, sorry, Access Bank. Opposite Ifako.
Jeez. So, just trying to get access to some money, my own in my own bank, in my own ATM, can't do it. But if you were plugged in and you had access, then you could go inside the bank and they hand you bulk pallets of cash to be able to take home. So that's happening at Access Bank. Here's Zenith Bank. This is also happening. Zenith Bank, customers at Zenith Bank are reporting that money's being stolen from their accounts. And when they take to social media to report it, their tweets are being removed. So Zenith Bank, here's just one example. Zenith Bank is removing the tweets I made. Your bank is cramming people out of their hard-earned money, and you're blaming customers for missing money in your accounts.
Oh, I'm so glad Twitter's on that one. Thank you, Twitter.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know who's like, you know, if enough like bots kind of get onto it and then they cancel out the accounts or something, or there's like an algorithm thing where people, you know, jump on it. So they get all these bank people to do it or whatever. Who knows? And in the United States, back to Bank of America, which just issued a big warning about a coming recession in 2023. A recession they're warning the federal government isn't doing enough to stop. Customers of Bank of America recently demanded answers when money went missing from their accounts. Customers started showing up in the lobbies of Bank of America branches demanding to know, hey, where's the money that's supposed to be in my account? It's not there. Or it's less than it should be. Like, what are you guys doing? Before they arrived, they were told to call customer service. So they got on the phone with customer service, and customer service didn't help them at all. So they came down to the bank branches, and they're showing up. And there's like long lines of people waiting to get answers about what's going on with their money. So, and they don't want you to do this. Of course, the banks don't want you to come to them physically anymore. Banks have moved mostly digitally. In fact, if certain bank accounts that you have will actually penalize you for going to the teller. They want you just to use the digital banking services because they don't want to have an interaction with you. Here's just one example of people showing up demanding their money at Bank of America. Watch.
So I'm at Bank of America and everybody's missing money. I'm also missing money, over $1,300, and they're telling me to call customer service. And they keep hanging up on people. This another person here is also missing money. So we're trying to see what's going on. Money's missing today, and we need our money. And they're already telling us to call customer service. And customer service ain't doing nothing about it. So just a heads up, if anybody's experiencing this, please let us know, because this is not right. I'm missing $1,400 from my account, and they're telling me that there's no way they can help us. This guy's missing money too. This other person is missing money too. And you missing money too? There you go. So this is not something that's just one person. This is everybody's happening to them. And this is crazy. This is very crazy. Yes, Bank of America decided to take people's money without their consent. And we're asking what's going on, and they're giving us a runaround. Everybody for the same thing, man. Same thing.
See someone in the chat saying, Hail Hydra. Frightening.
Yeah.
We're also hearing reports of this happening to customers at Wells Fargo and Chase Bank. Let us know in the chat what bank you have and where you're experiencing this. So far, in this poll we have up here during our live stream, almost 7,000 of you have now voted, 6,500 of you. And 25% of you have said you've either had issues with your bank lately with withdrawals or missing money. They don't want you to know about this. So some of you might say, well, my money's protected because of FDIC, right? Federal Deposit Insurance Commission. Now, if you're in the European Union, it's the European Central Bank, the ECB. So the FDIC is supposed to insure over $200,000 for Americans. So no matter what happens, right, the idea is that the FDIC has your back. $200,000, good. Anything above that, though, that's risky, right? That could be lost. We don't know. But we will make sure that we would get money out to you, $200,000. That's insured by the FDIC. In Europe, it's 100,000 euros, thanks to the European Central Bank. But not so fast. And this, folks, perhaps is the real story here, the deep part of this story. Because what happens when the FDIC and the ECB suddenly don't have enough money to cover those people that want their money in cash? Like, oh, I'm troubled by what's going on. I'm going to go to the bank and get my money, but it's not there. What happens? Oh, the bank used it and sold it or did something ridiculous with my investments. Okay, well, at least the FDIC will take care of me. Where's my money? I want my insurance. Sorry. So the real story here is that the FDIC only has $200 billion in assets on hand to insure over $9 trillion. How does that math work? $200 billion to cover $9 trillion.
Well, okay, but if they say that only 4% of currency actually exists in physical form, then I don't know what I did do that math off the top of your head.
Well, that means 1.6%. 1.6% of all transactions are covered or insured under this math. Right. 200 billion out of 9 trillion means that like 1.63% is covered under the FDIC. Like if everyone decided, hey, I'm sick of this, I'm scared about this, I'm going to the bank because I want my own money. No, it's
absolutely not possible. But, you know, we had been, well, even before this change in currency rules based on fractional reserve, we knew that less than 4% of all money in the economy existed in paper form.
Right.
That 96% or more of our currency is based on a belief system of binary codes in a computer. So we already knew that. But now it's probably, I mean, that percentage seems even lower. I'm not going to do that off the top of my head to embarrass myself. But, you know, yes, this is like reinforcing existing beliefs. It's a scary belief system when we're at the mercy of people who we don't necessarily trust.
So the bottom line is it's a house of cards. And so now we have our first stunning piece of video from the FDIC and a stunning meeting that they held in November that they don't want you to see. So it just leaked, and this video is out. You're going to see members of the FDIC and other panel discussions in this FDIC meeting. It's not just FDIC members. It's lawyers, it's bankers, but they're all around a table having a meeting admitting that a crash is coming. They're saying this. And they're also saying publicly in this meeting, and they all kind of laugh about it, that they don't have any faith in the banks. They also admit on camera that they don't want you to know this because only people who need to know that it's coming should be notified, i.e. the wealthy. They don't want you to know about this. And they say it in this meeting. You common people shouldn't be told because you would take your money out of the banks and then they wouldn't be able to use your money for bail-in purposes to save the banks. We'll let the rich people know about this, just like in March 2020. They made moves because we alerted them. They sold their stocks. They were in the know. They were fine. And you got screwed. And they're saying this in this meeting. This is the FDIC meeting. I'm going to show you a couple of different sound bites here. This is amazing. Watch.
Should be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim. Right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do.
You hearing them laughing?
They're laughing. That's really stinking condescending. What I hear from that is like, run along, little girl.
Yeah.
You don't need to know. And also, ever heard of FTX? Because, yeah, we don't like that. When we realize that people are doing stuff with our money that's untowards. Turns out not a great idea.
So we don't have faith in the banking system in here, and they all laugh. They're like, yeah, none of us do. We're the FDIC.
We can't tell the little people what's really going on here. It'll just scare them, and their little brains can't handle it.
Because if they do, oh my God, they might panic, and they might actually want their own money that they worked 40 years of their lives for.
We want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that will charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
I wondered whether there are some market tests of whether you're being heard.
So
there's no adult in that room. Like, yeah, that's fine.
I think about
anybody there who's like, maybe that's a little unethical. Should we have lunch on that? Should we think about that for a minute?
No, because they keep going. And that's just the first little chunk of this. So you're too stupid. We don't want you to know, the average person to know about this. If you're wealthy and you're plugged in and you've got a large legal team and you can pay people by the hour to figure all this stuff out, yeah, you can figure it out.
I mean,
the average person
has a point.
He does have a point. The system is rigged.
Because like when they announced there was a pandemic, a viral infection, toilet paper was like impossible to get. There was a run on toilet paper. So I get that the fact that there would be a run on the banks, and it could devastate the banks, It will. Because people, yeah, totally.
Because of the way that they're structured.
Exactly.
It's a scam. It's a scam. And the great house of cards is going to come down. When the collapse comes, the FDIC admits that they will send out an announcement. So get ready for this. They admit they will send out an announcement and they will tell us not to use money. This is how that's going to go down. They tell us that they plan on telling us on a Friday night. See if you can guess why they would tell us on a Friday night that the banking system has collapsed. Don't worry, don't use any money. We'll figure this out and we'll take care of you or not. We'll tell you on a Friday night. Listen to her explain when this will happen. Watch.
How would we use targeted guarantees to allay concerns about excess cash use? There's a lot of questions here. And so, there are a lot of things we've been thinking about, and what we want to hear from you today is what you think the priorities would be in order to go about setting expectations appropriately in public about how we would execute Title II, so that if and when we do have to have that announcement on Friday night, ideally Friday night, that people are in a position to receive it, understand it, and say, yeah, that works. And we can see how this will happen. Of course, there will be doubters, but there's a lot of things going on.
Okay, thanks for that.
So Friday night, of course, in the banking system is closed. So people all weekend can just be at home freaking out because, oh, wait a minute, I just lost, what's going to happen with my money?
Yeah.
My bank's going, we're in this economic, what the hell are you going to do about my money? It's gone. They're admitting this is coming. And they're saying that they managed to pull their money to safety. The rich people will pull their money to safety ahead of time. But most people were totally screwed because they weren't in the know. This is what happened in 2020, right? Those people got screwed because they weren't in the room where it happened. They weren't Bill Gates. They didn't get the heads up, the phone call from Nancy Pelosi. Here is how he actually admits that. Some people will be screwed by this. Watch.
Spread should respond to good and bad news about the institutions, and it's really important. I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution. But they're going to be. And it could be an early warning signal to the FDIC and the primary regulators when these things happen. And there may be some other prices, this is similar to what Jay was saying, in the market that you can tell whether people understand who's going to be protected, who isn't going to be protected. It would be, I think, an interesting study to look at the evolution of market prices in a situation like March of 2020, for example, and see whether people understood what might happen.
I might go further than that, Don, because I think that...
So listen to this next guy. This is unbelievable. So this guy just admitted that most people didn't understand because they weren't educated about it. The people that were in the know managed to be okay. The people that got screwed because they weren't in the... we wouldn't give them information. Listen, though, to the next guy.
You look at the evolution. I think we have to sit down and talk to long-term debt investors and make sure that they, as a stakeholder group, fully understand bank debt today is not what it was before. It is not principal protected by design. And I think that expectation, I like how you started off, Betsy, it's all about expectation setting. And I think that is absolutely critical. If that doesn't hold, this whole thing doesn't hold. And so I think it's one area to focus on.
So if the expectation doesn't hold, then this whole phony house of cards collapses, is basically what he's saying. Did I read that wrong? If the expectation doesn't hold, the expectation that our banking system is fine,
meaning we need
collapses.
to maintain the ruse.
Yes, we need to maintain the facade, is what he's saying.
Okay.
And not just him. We heard that 4 or 5 times around that table. The same thing was said multiple times about the facade, the phoniness of it all.
Yeah.
The house of cards of it all. So journalist Greg...
if you want... sorry, I was just going to say, while we're still on that point, if you want a really good example of just absolute evil, if you believe that absolute evil exists on the planet, you were just looking at a meeting of it. Because that is just, it's just how just almost flippant and nonchalant they are about a lot of common people are going to get screwed, but as long as the people that need to know can get their money out so we can secure, the rich so that they're fine, then everybody else is an acceptable loss.
Right. Yes,
how do you make that decision?
Yes, when he said, well, a lot of people get hurt, let's do a market study to figure out which of those people
understood it.
Which of those people will get hurt.
Oh, right. Right.
Some of them will get hurt. That's okay. Acceptable loss. Let's do a market study just so we know exactly who. Meaning you have already made that deal with the devil.
Well, and also to Philip's point, the idea that these people are sitting there waiting for these things to unfold and they're going to see that the rich people will be fine. And he brings up the point throughout the meeting where we've got to try to basically convince these rich people just to keep in the system. It's kind of like the Bernie Madoff story again, right? Mm-hmm. Bernie Madoff trying to convince his biggest investors
not to withdraw.
Like if he can keep those 4 or 5 big guys in the game, then he can support this house of cards. And they make mention of this throughout the meeting, that if we've got to keep the big players.
Yeah.
Really? Who's going to stick around for that?
Yeah.
When the music stops, will they be standing there? It certainly didn't happen for Bernie Madoff.
Isn't it, Philip? It's like it looks like a Simpsons sketch. All of these,
like Mr. Burns.
Old powerful people.
You can find this in. Exactly. You can find this in any like Marvel comic for when you got like the meeting of the villains. You go back to the very beginning, and every meeting of villains looks and sounds just like this. Because they're never like trying to like, you know, actually like literally destroy the world. They're always doing something like this, some nefarious, like this is how we like enslave the entire population to our will. Yeah. And you're just watching it, and people are just like, hey, no, this is cool. This is fine.
So, it's crazy. So journalist Greg Reese just reported that he has a source at the European Central Bank who was just assigned an urgent project related to bail-in capability, meaning how the Europeans will begin to structure bail-ins. Like this is happening, folks. And he's been pulled into an urgent meeting, the European Central Bank. So the ECB, Reese said that his source for the new ECB project goal is to build a data infrastructure for the financial market infrastructures, which are the networks that allow financial transactions to take place to report the ECB about the capability of banks and capital markets, to absorb losses and then to execute bail-ins, he says, as quickly and efficiently as possible. So identify and then immediately target and push those bail-ins to take people's capital. Basically, so it won't create these ripple effects. We'll just steal these people's money over here in order to offset what's going on over here. This urgent project makes clear that the ECB is expecting a system collapse, he says, and that they know it is uncontrollable and unforeseeable. So bottom line, the banks don't have your money. If you want to go and get your money, good luck. If you think the FDIC and the ECB insurance will cover your money, you're wrong. Here they are actively admitting and telling you the truth about this. So when this house of cards will come crashing down, I think really important, bottom line, to protect your family outside of this system.
Yeah.
And this is why I talk about get cash out. Get cash out. If anytime you have the opportunity when you're at an ATM or other, take as much as you can.
When I was traveling, I checked our bank statement because we were apart, and I looked in and I said, honey, what's going on? Why do you keep taking cash out? Do you have a gambling problem that I don't know about? And he was like, I told you we need to be
pay attention.
Now that we've said that, pay attention. So if anyone sees you in the street, they're going to be like, hey, guy.
Well, I don't keep it on me. I make sure it's safe in appropriate places. But, like in safety deposits and stuff like that, you've got to make sure you've got proper places. But the bottom line is, again, that's why we're seeing this crypto. I think, we're seeing crypto jumping up over the past couple of weeks again. Gold, silver prices, making sure that you've got money in precious metals and other assets, things that you control, as well as having cash on hand.
If I may, I'd love to recommend an awesome book about the history of currency called Layered Money by Nick Bhatia. I found this so fascinating, this book. I read it about 1.5 years ago. And he does make the point that every government currency has failed because governments cannot resist the urge to enrich themselves through currency. And in fact, there was never any reason for governments to be involved in currency, period. The Roman Caesars did it just for branding, basically to put their faces on it, and then they could not resist pulling metals out of the standardized coin so that a nickel had less nickel, and that enriched the government. So this is not new to society. We can collectively survive it, but we should absolutely understand it in historical context.
A lot of people asking in the chat, when is this crash coming? Who knows if anyone had a crystal ball on that exactly. All I'm saying is to be prepared. Put things in place now where you can actually take, here's the thing, if you've got $5,000 in a bank account in a bank, maybe you consider doing something with it that you control. Maybe putting it into precious metals that that is outside of this system and is held in a vault. Plenty of companies that do that, where you can have, hold vaults in Singapore, in Switzerland, and other places where they have it in a highly secured vault. You have access and ownership at any time to go and visit your coins or whatever, your gold, silver, or keeping it in a home safe. I know a lot of people who have home safes, large home safes that are like the size of a wall. Like having something like that in place where you keep this on hand yourself, or keeping capital in your pockets as well and keeping that cash as well. So Catherine Austin Fitts is a big proponent of cash. And I know there's been a lot of texts, well, cash is worthless. Cash is worthless. If the government collapses, that's a different scenario.
Yeah.
But the cash will still be worth something, absolutely, if it's available. Think about how important cash would be if people can't go to the ATM and get it out anymore.
Right.
And you're the one that actually did have it ahead of time.
And a lot of the preppers, they collect alcohol too.
Yes.
That's also another thing that
I was gonna say, like, start investing in whiskey and cigarettes, because those are things that people will barter for.
Well, as Catherine Austin Fitts talks about, the number one currency after the fall of the Soviet Union was not money or rubles or whatever, it was vodka. Yeah. And it was the little travel size things of vodka for crossing borders, things like that. You'd pay people off with vodka. So it becomes incredibly valuable. And so Catherine Austin Fitts says, anytime you go to the grocery store, buy like just a bottle of whiskey, or buy something, not that you're going to drink, but that you would use later as barter. I'm telling you, she's a smart cookie. And this is not me saying this. I'm listening to smarter people, much smarter than me. And you look at history, what happened to the Soviet Union and others, and this is history will repeat itself over and over and over again. And if you don't pay attention to it, you're going to be screwed. So please protect yourself on that.